Hello and welcome to your fourth HTML tutorial. Today we'll be covering images in a bit more detail, such as why a width and height should be added to informational images on your page and how you should place an image on the page if it is part of your layout. We'll also have a look at some other attributes for anchor tags. I'll introduce another list element like UL, OL. This time it'll be the DL list type. Alright, let's dive in. Alright, so I have opened up a directory, a folder, it's called HTML.4. If you remember how I showed you how to do that before, you can either use command prompt, or you just go into Visual Studio Code here, or your IDE of choice. Just open folder, navigate to your folder, and it should open it up. I've started off with an images folder in my directory here, and that's just this HTML5 logo. You can choose whatever image you like. We're going to go ahead and add the index.html in here. So by adding the new file, and just type index.html. And we're going to go through the motions here again, declaring our doc type, HTML. And we'll go into here, HTML, and we're going to add that lang attribute I told you guys about. Just call it lang en. And then we will add our head element. And within the head element, we need a title. And we'll just call this my HTML tutorial 4. Alright. Let's go down here and do the body. Alright, now let's add this image that we're talking about. So when we have images in an HTML page, there are kind of two different types of images. One is a layout image, and a layout image might be for something called a hero on your page, and a hero is something that spans the entire page. So let's look at an example of a hero image real quick. I'm going to try to bring this into view for you guys. One sec. So if we go to udemy.com, if we see this image right here, this is a hero image, or a jumbotron, or whatever the heck they call it anymore. I've always called it a hero or jumbo. Now they have went and used the image directly, but I guess it could be informational. But usually a good practice in layout is to define your image, its styles. So you define it as an element like a div, and then you would go into CSS and you'd say you want a background image, and you would define your image then. We're going to cover both of those today. So the first thing we're going to cover is the image itself. This is informational. You use the semantics on your page for informational purposes. So the image tag, source, and we're going to go into our images file. I always like adding the /dot just to be safe. And now that we have our image in there, we can definitely fire this up. Boom, there's our image. Now, let's look at this image here. So it is given a 495 pixel width and a 498 pixel height, and you can see that over there, this little tag that comes up here when I highlight it. You can also see it here, 495 by 498. So this is the height and width of the image that I have provided. So if we look at this and we hover over this, you can see it's 495 by 498. We haven't specified a height or a width for this element. Okay. So because we haven't done that, the browser really doesn't know how much space to allocate for this. So it's just going to go off of your image size. And this could pose a problem sometimes. So what you need to do is you have to provide a height and a width. And this is in pixels. And it's equal. So let's give this a height of, say, 200. And we'll give it a width of maybe auto. Or no, let's do a width of 200. Sorry, and I keep doing that colon. It's not supposed to be. Let's do a width of 200 and a height of auto. Let's see how it does with that. So we'll come back into Edge here, refresh. Alright, so what we've said is to kind of keep the aspect ratio of the image. We said we want the width to be 200 pixels, but we don't care how high the height is. We want the image to be in proportion. So it will just pick a height based off of the original resolution of the image. Alright, so that's what it's done. Something else I should mention while we're here, if you're providing images to your viewers, right, on your web page, you want the images to be close to what you're going to display them at on your page, so that you're not requiring your users to download a huge image. If you have an image that's 4K, it's like 3,000 pixels wide and however many pixels tall, that's a lot of data to download. It can make your page really slow. No matter how small you make it on your page, it's still going to download that entire image. So a good practice is to try and scale that image down, maybe in an image editing software, and then put that on your site, and that way it's a smaller image. And then there's also different things with images, and you can look these up later. Maybe I'll cover them in an advanced HTML course, but there's lossless compression and lossy compression. You can find these converters on the internet, and all you do is you drop your image in there and it returns you an image that has been optimized for web. Okay. So let's go ahead and provide another image, and this time we're going to do it within a div tag. Now remember, the image was an inline element. So if we put a div in here and we say hello, and we come in here, it went below it. But image is a inline element, right? So it should have went over here. That's wrong, because div is a block level element. So a block level element is going to get its own space below the image. So if we see, there's the image, and there's the div. Alright, just so you guys are aware of that. Now, with this div, remember I showed you guys classes last time. We're going to go ahead and stick to that. You also know that you could put a style in just like this, right? But typically that's a bad practice in web development. We want to use either style up here or style sheets, which I'll introduce to you later. So for a style, let's say we want this second image, so we'll just say second hyphen image. And also, sorry, we need that period in the front. That denotes a class in your element. So we have this second image, and then we do an open brace and a closing brace. Inside of your div that you want to use that class with, we'll do class equals second image. Okay. So for the image, or the background image, the CSS rule is background hyphen image. Okay, after we do that, you want to provide a URL. So you do a URL with parentheses, and then inside of that you're going to do quotations, / images, and actually let's just copy this HTML display.png. Okay. Alright. Okay, so we have our image in there. Let's go have a look at it real quick. Alright, what's wrong here? So first of all, because it's a background, it is repeating itself by default. Okay. Also, we haven't specified a height really for this div. It's just going off of base of the text that we put in here, right? So we are only seeing a little sliver of the image that would be the background. Okay. So let's go ahead and define a height. Let's say height 90 VH, and I'll explain to you what that means in a second. But let's go here. Alright, now we're styling. Okay, so this is obviously not the design you would want, right? But let me show you some properties here to get rid of this. So first, 90 VH means the vertical height of your monitor or your window. The viewport is your web browser. Okay, so we said 90% viewport, so it's taking up 90% of the viewport here. And yes, we have a little scroll here, but that's because we have this up here. Alright. So you could have also very well said pixels here. You could have said I only want this to show on 500 pixels. Nope. We come in here. Boom, now it's only 500 pixels. Let's go ahead and adjust this. So we go into Dev Tools, and we just want to we don't want to see that bottom little edge there. So if we highlight this div and we come over here, we can directly modify this just for looks until that little thing goes away. I'm going to go with 495 pixels. Okay, and so it got rid of that. Now again, if you remember from the last tutorial, this doesn't save. This is just for visualization, so that you can make little changes and then move them over. So we'll go ahead and highlight this, copy it, and we'll bring it over to Visual Studio Code, highlight this and drop it in there. 495. When we save, we come back, we refresh, it kept that size. Alright, now we have it repeating itself. So let's go ahead and try to fix that. So what we want to do to fix that is come in here and say background repeat, and we're going to say no repeat. And don't forget that little semicolon at the end of your rules. So another one we want to do is background position. So we'll say center. Right? So we say background position center, and we say background repeat, no repeat. And then when we come back here and we refresh our page, boom. Have your image centered vertically and horizontally on your page. It is not repeating anymore because we told it not to. Alright? Now let's have a look at the width and height here. It has a 495 pixel height because we told it to, and then obviously it's spanning the entire div. Alright, so don't forget these two ways here of defining images. This should be for informational purposes, like if you're showing like an image gallery or something like that. And this should be done, this method should be done when it's a part of your layout. Like if this were my hero here for my page, HTML5, then I would go ahead and use a div and add it as a background image instead of semantic image. So if I were to come in here and I were to say display and get rid of my S, that is obviously, that's not a valid image in my directory, right? So if you notice up here, this little broken file thing, it's because we removed that S from our source there, right? We don't have a image called HTML5-display.png. It's actually display. So it's going to say I can't find, it's basically telling you I can't find this image, right? And if we come in here, the console of your developer tools, from elements to console, it actually tells you error file not found. Okay, and it's telling you what line in your HTML. You bring that up and it shows you what line, saying that this image can't be found. Okay, so really it depends on the browser, but usually it'll show this broken file. But what you want to do is give this alt attribute in your image. So alt equals, and we're just going to say HTML5 logo. It can be whatever you want. But then when you save that and you come back in, it's going to be a little more informational. It's going to say HTML5 logo. Alright, so that wraps up what we wanted to cover for images. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the comments below, but I think we've pretty much covered that. So let's move on to the next topic. So now I want to go over some different ways that you could provide links on your page. Normally you do a link like this, where you could say, you know, and this might be home, right? And this is obviously just going to link to your index.html page. And again, I like to put my relative paths there, dot equals for the current directory. Alright, and then we would come in here, and there's your home link, right? And it's just going to take you here to this index.html, the same page that you're on, because that's what we told it to. We told it to go to index.html. Now there's different ways to open your links. So there's this attribute called target. So if we do a space here, make sure you're inside of this opening tag, and you say target equals. We're going to tell our link to open the page in a new tab. And to do that, it's called blank underscore blank. For those of you that don't know, your underscore is up by your 0 number key. It's to the right of your 0 number key. If you hold shift and hit it, it'll do an underscore. So underscore blank. And then if we save that, and we come back to our HTML page here, we refresh. If we click on home, watch what happens. Alright, did you see that? It added a new tab, went to index in that new tab. Okay. Now to demonstrate these other types of links, the target links, I want to introduce you briefly to what's called an iframe. And to do that, we're going to have to create another page. So let's go up here and we're going to add in, let's call it, add a file, call it iframe.b.html. Alright, so we got this iframe B, right? In here we're going to create an iframe. Now, iframes are just, to go over this briefly, they're just basically a way for you to open a page within your page. Okay, they're typically a bad practice unless you're doing it in some instances, like I am at work. I'm doing an iframe for a what's called Power BI, Microsoft's Power BI. I'm loading in a widget in an iframe. Okay, so a lot of times you can just do this, google.com, something like that, right? So if we have this iframe and we come in here, oh, okay, it looks like Google's not letting us do that. So let's try a different website. Let's try Amazon.com. Amazon's probably going to do the same thing. Oh, yep, they are not letting you load it in there. Alright, so let's try, yeah, as you can tell, people don't like iframes. Okay, so Udemy's not letting us do it either. Let's see. Alright. So I've loaded in this handy dandy web page on how to tell if a website allows you to load it into an iframe. And as you can tell, this website's been nicely designed with a nice mobile kind of layout here if you're in a small viewport. Alright, so now that we've gotten past that, this is another web page loaded inside of an iframe. Okay, so that gives you kind of a basic rundown on iframes. We'll cover them more in detail later. You can specify height, width, and there's a few other properties you can give it. But for now, you know kind of what an iframe is. So in this case, we are actually going to target our page. We want iframe b.html, the one that we put up there. So we're going to say iframe b.html and make sure to give it its relative path. We're going to save that. Let's come in here to iframe b and do another iframe. And don't worry about your doc type here. We're just doing this for quick sake. Normally, yes, you would provide your doc type. Right. So we got an iframe. I'm going to do a source equals. We'll do this here, iframe a.html. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and nest another page here. So come in here, create a new file, call it iframe a.html. Alright. Now in iframe a, let's go ahead and do an anchor. So we're just going to link to our HTML5 image that we have here in this directory, okay, in iframe a. So in the href, let's do a relative path. We'll say images, and we'll select the HTML5 display.png. Save that. Now here, let's go over the different types of targets you can provide to an anchor. So the first one that you can provide, obviously we did blank, and that opens your link up in a new tab. We saw that, right? The next one that you can provide, let's just do this in comments here. We're going to say top, okay? We're going to comment that just so we know. And again, to comment in Visual Studio, if you select, so let's do this one, the parent. If we put it in the middle of the parent or just anywhere in the word there, you Control K C, Control K C puts it into a comment. If you want to uncomment it, you do Control K U for uncomment. Control K C for comment puts it into a comments. All right. So we also have top. So we have top, parent, and self. Put that into comments as well. So therefore we have our blank, top, parent, and self. And again, underscores before each one of these. Okay. So let's demonstrate these. Now, blank is the one where you're just saying open it in a new tab. Okay. These other ones are not widely used. These are kind of for your iframes, right? And the iframes are not they're not commonly used in web pages typically. I mean, you see them still, but a lot of people don't like them because they're a security vulnerability, and we'll get into that later, much later. There's certain attacks that hackers can exploit through iframes. So people don't tend to like them, and that's kind of why Google doesn't let you load them in iframes. Amazon doesn't let you load their site in iframe. But again, we'll cover that more in detail later. Okay, so in iframe B, we've said we want the iframe to point to iframe A. And in iframe A, we've said that we want to have this link there, right? And this link is pointing to our HTML5 image, and it's just called image. Now, if we go in there now, you're going to see, we refresh, we click on this image, it opens in itself. Self is default, okay? So there's blank that goes to another tab, there's self that is default. So if we click on any link, if we click on this home link, we didn't provide any special target. So if we come into here in the index and get rid of the target blank so it doesn't go into a new tab and save that, let's go back to that page there. If we click on home here after refreshing, it's just going to come here, right? It's self. It's in its own window. Okay. Okay, we got that covered, right? So let's go into here into the iframe A and say target equals top. Right? Underscore top. Make sure you get that underscore. That's important. So then we'll save that, and we will come into here. Okay, now just for visibility's sake, let's do some changes here. When you come into iframe B here, above iframe, or above this iframe here, and do an H2 tag, and make sure you get your ending tag there. Just call it iframe B. This is just so we know which one is which. Now come into the iframe A here and do the same thing. We want an H2 tag, and we'll call it iframe A. Save that. We're going to go ahead and come in here now, and as you can see, they are named. And let's do one more thing just to kind of spice this up a bit. Go into the index.html page to your iframe. Let's give it a width of 500 and a height of 500. Oh, I keep doing that colon. Alright, so now we've specified the width and height. It's going to be a little bigger now. Okay, so The important thing to remember here is iframe B is parent to iframe A. Iframe A is the child of iframe B, right? So if we come in here, we remember we put target equal to top. So if we open this image up, so it opened in the topmost window, okay? The topmost window is your viewport, right? Let's go back. Now, remember, iframe B is the parent, iframe A is the child, right? So let's come in here and say parent. Come back here, refresh this, click on the image. Did you see what happened there? We have lost our child iframe because we have decided to reload the image in the parent iframe. Even though it was from the child, it loaded that link in the parent iframe. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh this page here so we can get our image back. And now we're going to go ahead and change this to self. Alright, so we've changed that. Come into our page here. We'll refresh. I'm going to click on the image. And as you can tell, it loaded that within itself. Again, if you want to omit self altogether, self is the default target. So let's refresh. We click on that. As you can tell, it loaded within itself, right? Okay, so let's recap real quick. We have, let's go ahead and create them all here, okay? So in the iframe A, I'm sorry, let's call this top, and let's copy this whole line here. You could do and paste it down here, and we'll do that 4 times or 3 times, sorry. So we have top, and we'll call this one parent, and I'm critical, so I'm going to put the capital in there, self, and then we'll do a blank. Okay, so let's start adding these targets here. Target underscore top, come down to the next one, target underscore parent, come in here, target underscore self, and target underscore blank. Yes, duh. Okay, so now let's come back to our web page here, refresh. We have top. Obviously we click that. This is going to open it in the topmost window, which is our viewport. Let's go back. Now if we open this in parent, it comes here to the parent iframe, which was iframe B. Hit back. Self, which is default, opens it here inside of that iframe. Go back, and blank will open it in a new tab on your viewport. Okay, so we've covered the anchor target attribute. Hopefully I made sense through all of this. If you have any questions, as usual, put them in the comments below and I will make sure to answer them for you. So if you remember, in the previous tutorials I've shown you a couple different list type elements that you can add into your web pages. One was the unordered list, UL. Okay, and unordered lists have line items in them, and you can just do this here. We'll just put example 1 up. You guys already know this, but we're just going to put it up just for visibility's sake. Alright, so there's our unordered list, and that's going to default to having bullets next to each of those line items, right? We also have the ordered list, we do this ordered list with also li elements, and we'll just call this 1 li 2 li 3. Okay, let's go look at those. Come in here. These are going to show up below what we just did. And just for visibility's sake, guys, so you remember, let's do a horizontal rule. Do HR. Just leave that there. Come back in here. Let's refresh this page. And we have a nice little horizontal rule there to kind of divide the page. Here's our unordered list with the bullets 1, 2, 3, and here's our ordered list 1, 2, and 3. Right? There is another list element that is called a definition list. And to do that, it's just DL. Okay? And then inside of each DL definition list, you have two elements that you can define. One is a DT for definition term. We're just going to say 1. Okay? And then a definition description. Okay? And 1 is the first letter when counting, right? It's true, about as true as can be, right? So let's say we want another term. Let's obviously, this is a hard one. Let's do second, or 2. And the explanation of that is 2 is the second letter when counting. Man, you guys are learning a lot today. Alright, let's do another one. DT 3 and a DD 3 is the third letter when counting. I will save that. Let's come on into the web page here and refresh. If we go down below, there is your definition list. This is your definition term, your definition description. Term, description, term, description. Now, I have not seen this used very much, but it's there for your using pleasure. Use it how you will.
Hey guys, so that'll wrap it up for today. Once again, I will go ahead and provide a link to the quiz for this tutorial in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, we would love to have you back to the channel. Please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.